Wow, Marci, that was intense. I was getting choked up a couple of times there,
Oh,
speaking about our famous veteran, Gary Ferguson. So it was really beautiful to see Mac and Melanie continuing on with Gary's legacy. And I think those who are listening are going to be excited to hear about the work they're doing.
yeah, they're doing great work, and it's such a great way to start off the month of November, which we are dedicating to veterans' mental health and men's mental health. So this is a great start. Melanie and Mac are an awesome team doing great work out in the world. I think you'll enjoy it.
The world is a lot right now. Are you feeling it? We all need new tools to help us walk through the chaos with grace, ease, and compassion for each other and for ourselves. In this podcast, you'll hear from parents, educators, and other experts who can bring perspective to the monumental job of parenting. It's time to level up and be warriors for our kids and our communities. This is the Warrior Parent Podcast. I'm Marci Mitchell.
And I'm Debbie DiManno. As parents, we understand that it really does take a village to raise our kids. We hope that this podcast serves to create and support that community for you. Join us as we discuss and practice our core tools, which are proven mind-body techniques that can be used by anyone to improve your life on a daily basis.
Welcome back to the Warrior Parent Podcast. We are so glad that you're joining us today, and we're excited to be starting the month of November, which is the month we honor our veterans. And so today we will be speaking with our good friends, Melanie Reagan and Sergeant Major Mac McAdams. Melanie is the president of the Colonel Renee Rubin Private Foundation for Veterans, and she's also the mother of a daughter in the Air Force and a son in the Army. Her husband, Sergeant Major Mac McAdams, is the new CEO of Pathways for Veterans, which is an amazing organization set up to serve our veterans, begun by a wonderful man who all of us know and love in this community, Gary Ferguson. And so Mac has 41 years, 8 months, and 11 days in the service of our military, and he has served across multiple services. So he has good stories to tell about that. We're so glad to have you both on the Warrior Parent Podcast today. Welcome, Melanie and Mac.
Well, it's our pleasure, and thank you for having us. Yes,
And thank you for
Absolutely.
honoring.
yes,
It's wonderful what you're doing.
for the month of veterans.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you so much both for being here. I'm going to try to get through this podcast. This is a special one for me. And I'm dedicating this podcast to Gary Ferguson. So in
Yes.
preparation for our podcast today, I went back and I looked through the book that Gary and I spent so many years writing together. And believe it or not, we're going to finish this book in 2025. I guarantee it. But
Yes.
anyway, so I'm going to be sharing maybe a couple of quotes from Gary's book. But I wanted to give this shout out to the veterans, to Marci, Melanie, to your kids, and to you, Mac, for all that you do to take care of us here. And I learned so much from Gary about the unintended consequences of war. Right. I have no one in my family who's ever been to war. I didn't know the first thing about it. So for me to spend 2 years with him in Vietnam was a little difficult for me, and still is to talk about. But he also taught me a couple of other big things, and one is to be in service, and once in service, always in service is what he used to say to me. And the other big piece is about gratitude. So I feel like us doing this podcast today is doing all those things. We're being in service here for you and giving gratitude to those who are special in our lives. So thank you both. So that being said, I know, like, okay, everybody take a breath. I'm going to get through this. But anyway, you guys give us a little background. Mac, you go first because you got so many years. Tell us a little bit about what it means for you to be a veteran, to have come through your service and where you are right now.
Well, I think I'm living my best life, and
Mhm.
and part of that was Gary, and being able to get involved with pathways, and I wanted to be more involved, and well, I resurrected it, but then this is me doing service to what his dream was, and
Mhm.
the it was such a powerful, moving. It inspired me to want to be better and to give
Yes.
to veterans because I need to elevate their status. I mean,
Yes.
we suffer, you know, yeah, the service is fine, but our sacrifices. So, I'm trying to give
Yes.
back, heal some of that because it really pierces the soul sometimes. I mean,
Yes.
Yes.
you go through the horses and you miss the anniversaries, but like I have the issue that my son haven't spoken to me in 20 years, and where
Oh.
was that? I didn't sign up for that one, I just
Mm.
served my country,
Yeah.
and that was one of the problems of that come out of that.
Yeah.
But I'm
Those
hoping,
are
Yeah.
the unintended consequences, right? I was
Yeah.
reading Gary's book. It reminded me, he gave a dedication of the book to both of his children, and in that basically apologizing for not being there as a parent.
Yeah.
Right. People don't understand the sacrifices that veterans make. And it's not just, a limb or an injury or whatever. It's the sacrifice of your family.
yes,
Correct?
yes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and survival's remorse, and the list goes on. So,
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
so
It's deep and it's complicated, which is why we see our veterans suffering so much because of all this. And it's not traditionally talked about. I think we're starting to do a better job of it, but it's so important to discuss it, to express it, to allow people to have the emotions and then talk about what that's like. And I know, when I we were active duty, and for me, it's been a long time since I was active duty, but there weren't really opportunities there was a lot of camaraderie, but we weren't talking about our families necessarily, or what we were missing, or how we were feeling, or these things. And so when you're stuffing that down, we know that's going to come back. It's going to come back later in ways that are not fun or pleasant.
Right.
And one of the things that I hold dear is that PTSD is not one size fits all. And so what
Mhm.
Mm,
we do is we do PDP, and then we do BioWell, and we do a heart math. And so these are the
Yes.
things that an individual can go away with that they can see themselves after we put them through certain little stressors like our sweat lodge and our ice water challenge. And then they see how they respond to it. I know I've gone through
Yeah.
military before, and some through the VA, but this is something that I challenge them to themselves, and they go
Mhm.
away with this quantifiable and qualifying that is personal to them.
yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And we love the tools,
Love the
and we
tools.
want to hear a lot about that, but let's hear from Melanie. Give us a little of your background and how you ended up in this work, and then we want to hear about what you're both doing for our veterans now.
Colonel Renee Rubin was like an aunt to me. She dated my uncle, who was a judge for about 15 years. She never married, but she inspired me so much as an Air Force colonel, the very, very first female military police officer of the Air Force back in the 50s. And
Wow.
she,
Wow.
Yeah,
Think about that. Just think about that for a minute.
that's
Like,
trailblazing. Yeah.
yes.
she was a trailblazer, but she was inspired by Amelia Earhart. And
Uh,
she graduated high school at 15. She graduated college at 19. And she was the very first female to ever graduate with a criminology degree from UC Berkeley. And then
Wow.
she was the
Wow.
very female professor ever at Hastings College of Law. She has
oh,
blazed the
that's where my
trail.
brother went.
Oh, yeah. Also the very first female president ever of the formerly male dominated bastion called the Commonwealth Club of California. The
Mm.
second female president was Shirley Temple Black. So
Nice.
trail for her. But she's done so much. She was the one who was commissioned to do the study back in the day in the late 60s to integrate academies with women. And they told her, we want it status quo. So just do the study, but no changes. And she came back with, not only can they be integrated with women, they should be. And she did back
Absolutely.
down, blackballed, and her records redacted. And they said, you thought we were going to make you the first female general of the Air Force? Well, forget that. And she was basically kind of pressured to retire as a full bird colonel. And she did so, but she never stopped fighting for what she believed in until the very last day. So we talked about it. I said, Renee, instead of having this will, which is basically a wish list, why don't you create your own foundation so that you can see the fruits of your labors of what you give to now while you're still alive? And she said, good idea. We did that. We funded the Colonel's Kennels. CJ Austria started that, and he applied for a grant, and he named it after Colonel Reuben, the Colonel's Kennels. So he takes dogs from shelters and trains them. And we have scholarships for veterans that take these dogs through their own training, so they become either service dogs or support animals. So that has been a wonderful program, and scholarships for these vets to get a dog and go through the training, train them themselves. So that's been really gratifying. And we've done some other some other grants. And Gary Ferguson was the biggest that we worked with the longest before he passed away. As he had this vision from Pathways to do these retreats. We had done a lot of pilot projects with different modalities, different healing modalities, the restoration and different elements that didn't involve the prescription medication, different healing modality. And we did these and got evidence that it worked. And since then, Gary was on the cutting edge with the BioWell training. And these are fingertip measure your energy that flows through your body, and it was developed in Russia, technologically advanced, but could indicate where there are problems in your body. And we were able to use that technique to distinguish between what might be a spiritual, emotional, mental issue, and then what's pure. That we incorporated that eventually after he passed away. We got an upgraded technology on the BioWell, and then we added the heart math to it. So now we have viable results. We have done 4 veterans retreats, 1 women and 3 men. And since then, we did measurements before the retreat and after the retreat, and the energy flow in all 100% of the participants was better.
Wow.
That's awesome.
We can actually prove.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's super emotional, but it's great to see what Gary started. And we all put our hearts and minds and money and grant money he applied for, got put into these programs. And Max said, we can't let that die with him. We have to resurrect.
Yeah.
So he would be so proud to have done now.
Yes.
Veterans.
I gotta grab this since we're talking about Gary and he's looking at me. Just for our viewers who don't know who we're talking about. So here he is. Gary Ferguson. This is from his memorial service, but this is the guy that we're talking about.
Yeah. Wow.
Put a face to the name.
So I want to go back to what Mac was saying about PTSD. It's everyone's talking about PTSD now. So talk about some of the people that you have worked with now, and the sort of the levels of PTSD, and then some of the outcome. So again, Marci and I have so many discussions about people really, and not necessarily veterans, but people trying to get away from the medication, right? They don't want to just numb their PTSD. It may not be from war, it may be from family trauma, it may be from wherever, right? But what Gary was so eloquent with was all these other modalities, different ways to rewire your brain to settle. All the things from the water, like he was doing a little bit of everything. So talk to us a little bit about the PTSD, about these consequences of war, perhaps, and the different levels of that, and then some of the outcomes that you're seeing.
In the retreat, we do have time, and we sit there and we have interviews and allow veterans to share, the triggers and the things that don't work for. Like I got stationed at Beale Air Force Base, and I would go to work in the morning, and there would be these rice paddies, and the steam is coming off, and I'm seeing silhouettes, and that would do my
Man.
triggers, and I had to find other roads to go into work because I like that one's not working for me. It takes me settle back down, and I've been on two fronts, so yeah, being trapped in traffic and trash on the road, there are different triggers. But the one things that it's always been, the situational awareness. You're always looking, you're hyper vigilant, and so when it hits the pillow, I'm out, but then I'm waking up pretty soon, and so you want to try to normalize your life, and so I thought that might be through medication. Then it's not the way, because I mean it just drugs you, and you're not yourself. And I found
Right.
that one of the problems was I had sleep apnea, so I got a CPAP, and that gave me the oxygen needed. But you have to really be your best advocate as far as medication and the VAs, and you have to really look into yourself and say, how am I gonna fix me without taking all them pills, and because
Yeah.
it it's not good, So I've tried to be strong, and strengthen myself. I recently retired from the VA after 16 years on June 1st, this 2024. And I went there as a police officer. And, every veteran has had some sort of weapons training. So, I was trying to always say, to disarm them by saying, you know, help me, help you. Because when my turn comes, I want somebody to be there for me. So what is it that I can
Yeah.
do? I can further your recovery. And so that's always been kind of, I started at the VA in 1967, working psych wards. And if you've ever seen the movie Cuckoo's Nest, that was shot at a VA because all we had was the ice bath and shock treatment, and I'd have probably
My
said, get in the car
goodness.
out of here then. But it was kind of scary, It was
Yeah.
it was dark and it was dungeony, They had tuberculosis wards, and it was a
Mm.
different place and time. Now I get my care there. It's professional. It's a teaching
Yeah.
facility. It's the largest HMO in the world. All of our allies wish they had a VA, which is dedicated just to veterans.
Yeah.
I second
Yeah.
that. I get my care there as well. And we had another insurance when I started going there, because I found the doctors were more and this is in the Sacramento VA, so shout out to the Sacramento VA. The doctors were more interested in me. They had more time. Like I routinely have 45 minutes with my doctor when I go in, and she talks to me and she asks me what's going on, versus I think all of us have had those appointments where the doctor's in and out, and it's so fast that you're like, wait, what did I even get to say what I was feeling? So
Yeah.
they talk to me about stuff. They go through things. We have at length conversations. She'll get on the computer and look things up as we talk, and it's just a whole different vibe. And that's for all the doctors that I've had there, with one small exception. But so one of them was not that great, but most of them have been fantastic. And yeah, my husband and I both use the VA as our primary care now, and we're really happy with them.
Well, it's come a long way. Like
Yeah.
as Max suggested, it was not always like that. I worked
And
in the
it's
VA.
I know.
where do you
I would,
put what do you value? Where do you put the money? So
yes.
as if
Yeah,
we value it, then we can make it better. Yeah.
exactly. Exactly.
Trying to too, and working with Gary and working with other mentors, we've been trying to get through to the VA that the transition has to happen, that support for transition when veterans come.
Yes.
I check one out of here, or they're in a war zone, and then the next week say, hey, mow the lawn. They're in the military. You have an identity, a mission,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
a purpose, people that got your back. Suddenly you're home and all that's gone, and you
Yeah.
need to
Yeah.
create identity, mission, meaning, and purpose. And in our and for about 15 years, my other mentor, John Henry Parker, a Marine, we searched all these different modalities to find out how we can get veterans to talk to us or to open up a little bit, because they don't trust
Yes.
anybody.
No.
Yeah.
So we found this PDP survey, which is PDP Global, is a behavioral index basically survey, but it's very dynamic. And over the 15 years, we've researched a lot of them. That's the best. And what we're able to do is measure, okay, this is how you basically roll. This is basically your basic traits, from the take charge trait, the people trait, the patience harmony, and then the systems trait conformity. Your battery level kind of measures that. Your style, how you use your energy, how much you have. And this information, we're able to go through that report with a veteran and say, does that sound like you? And, yeah, how'd you get that from?
Yeah.
So we were able to get them to kind of see we know what we're doing. And with that, we open a little bit of doors to mentoring. But it's that identity, mission, meaning, and purpose after the trauma. And it's layered, multi-layered.
Of course. And I'm wondering when you get to your retreat, and the retreats are 2 days, 3 days?
Oh, this last one was 4 or 5 days.
4 or 5 days.
Wow.
So they're going to the ranch that you have up in Weaverville, or the home ranch. I'm not sure what word you're using. And they're staying there. So that first day, that's got to be interesting about how you're going to start to get people to drop their walls and to be vulnerable. What does that look like? How do you start to get there, to make them feel comfortable and safe and willing to be vulnerable and do the work?
Well, they're super small, but go ahead. You can.
Well, first off, we do the PDP before they come, and then they do a communication over the phone. And then with that, when they get there, when we pick them up at the airport, everything is covered for them. And then
Nice.
catered. And so we have rooms available there, and it gives them a time to settle in. And we wanted to have them know, give them that introduction, the icebreakers. And then we get into being who we are, our services, and we go around the room that way, and we all are able to share. And we have individual that went through the last retreat last year who is now taking psychology courses and so it's really starting to feed itself, and to come alive.
Yes.
People that purpose to find what their niche is. And so it's important that they find it. I don't want to give you the order. I want to have you find what's good for you and make you find purpose and motivation in life. So that's where we're kind of going, for the most part. And then it's taking on a life of its own. I really see it starting to blossom and bloom, because individuals have a lot of stress, PTSD. I mean, good thing we turn off the TV, There's a knob on there that said brighter that didn't make it smarter, okay? And so
If only.
Those young people listening have no idea what you just said. They don't know
what's a knob.
Yeah.
We gotcha.
Yeah. Oh my
And then,
goodness.
and so then you also said you're basically stressing them a little. So talk a little bit about that, the sweat lodge and some of the other ways that you're putting them through the work, basically.
Well, the sweat lodge is I had Seminole ancestry. My grandmother was Seminole Indian. So, I gravitate toward the spiritual side of things, so that was one of the ones that we brought in, and we have individuals who are trained in that, and they do a sweat lodge, and they heat the rocks, and they put it in a spiritualistic, ritualistic kind of manner.
They tell us about the Indian rituals in that area up in Polka Creek Ranch. There's 7 different tribes, and basically we do a lot of traditional tribes, but it's bringing everybody back to basics, to nature.
Yes.
Everybody back on our ancestors, and we call on the sun, the moon, the earth, all north, south, east, west. It's all there. We have a 25-foot teepee, and they describe a lot of these rituals, and we have certain roots that we put on the rocks that sparkle and say prayers, and we do the chants. Well, we don't know the words, of course, but and it's fun. And after a while, you kind of get into it. So it's all Native American, different spirituality, and people do see things. It's completely dark in that sweat lodge. You can't see your hand in front of your face, but people see things from the fire, or they see things brought up by the chants or brought up by the prayers. And then we even go around in the sweat lodge. It was just veterans this time. Our goal for the place is to be run completely by veterans for veterans. And so had two come back now as presenters the following year. Because years he said he was a bad guy, terrible drunk and a drug addict, and just breaking the laws all over the place. Now he's in the gym, he's studying. His goal is to be a psychotherapist or psychologist for veterans in drug and alcohol abuse.
Love that. It comes back to what Debbie was saying and that Gary said about service. That can be so healing for us when we shift from whatever, the dependence, the numbing on substances, whatever, trying to get, and we go to what can I give? What's mine to give? Why am I here? And how can I serve? And when you find that niche, you find that place where you feel called to serve. I don't know that there's much else that can inspire you and lift you and fill you in such a complete way.
One of the participants this year said, I'm moving from Washington. I want to move down here so I can be here for these retreats every time.
Well, just think about what you've done, though. Melanie, people don't know this, but this was your family home, and you have opened up your home essentially to all of these human beings so that they can have a voice, right? Gary used to say that's all they really want, is to have a voice, and they want someone to listen to them, to be seen and to be heard is huge. And I think especially for those veterans who have been displaced and disregarded and dishonored, right? Gary tells the story of Vietnam, and he came home and they spit on him. I'll never forget that. Yeah, it sounds like you too.
Yeah.
I had to take my uniform off in the airport bathroom in Seattle, Tacoma.
Yeah. I believe that my father-in-law said the exact same thing. Yeah.
But it's a magical 18 acres, I mean, it gets you out of the jungle, and and no matter where you live, and we brought one from Las Vegas and Indiana and Baltimore. So when they get there, and then they're out here in the trees, and you can almost hear nature because it's that quiet, things are growing, and so they have that opportunity to be in nature. And I think that's a big part of it. It's not like we went into a brick building, like a bunker, and we talked about your problems, here in nature. And so we have axe throwing, and, we have a tightrope walking, there's little things that we do. And then so we have them write, like, PTSD sucks, and we throw the axe at it, so, so that's great. And so who makes the best score, and it's a competition, but it's also a chance for them to bond, and that's kind of how it starts when you suffer together in certain things, and then they had to fix their mind for the 2 minutes in the ice water, and it's a challenge. Takes your breath away. The shrinkage involved.
That is beautiful work. I think we might be running short on time. I could talk to you guys all day, but on the back end of this, I do want to read a little piece from Gary's book before we go, because it reminds me of your both being in service, and also reminds me of something he was passionate about, even to the day he died, and that was that the feminine energy was to be super important for us going forward in this world. So I just want to share this. I'm going to read this for you. For me, it's all about service. Although the meaning of that has changed for me since I wore the uniform, my hope is that in allowing me to be in service to you, you can be in service to those around you too. We all know that if we don't change things soon on the planet and apply this information, there will be consequences. We need to wake up from our collective sleep, get off our asses, as Carrie would say, and do something to be a part of that change. So this book is an invitation to shake up your own shit and go out in the world and be as part of something greater than yourself. Spoken just like Gary.
Just like Gary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
So
before we go, let's share a little bit about how people can find you, find the retreat, um, find the organizations that you're supporting. And so you've already told me that you can find the Colonel Renee Rubin Private Foundation on Facebook, and also colonelskennels@gmail.com. And that's information in case someone's interested in getting more information on the retreats, maybe referring someone. We do have a phone number too for that, and that's for CJ, and her number is 916-467-8626. And then we also have the website for pathwaysforveterans.org. And so that's just all 3 words spelled out together, pathwaysforveterans.org, which Mac will be working on and kind of bringing back to life now. It's been a couple years since Gary left the planet, so it's wonderful that you're continuing his work that way. And one other thing, I know I've seen some of the videos from the retreats. I would love to have a link to those that gives people a little sense of some of what's going on there. That's just beautiful. So hopefully we can get that link and we can share it to our page, to our website. I mean, to our podcast page, so people could see that.
We will do that. It was a lot of laughter, but a lot of tears and a lot.
yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Thank you both so much.
Thank you
for being
both
here.
so much. Yeah. Happy Veterans Day.
Same to you. All right.
Thank you.
And now for your core mental health break. This is your opportunity to take a moment to support your mental wellness, your peace of mind, your own ease and grace. Take some time every day to support your mental health. You deserve it, and it matters. So let's just take a moment to breathe. We'll take 3 deep, intentional breaths to just bring ourselves to a place of center and calm. So breathing in through the nose, allow your chest and your belly to fill with air. Pause for a moment at the top of the breath, holding it before you release it. You can blow it out through your mouth, like you're blowing it out through a straw, or just release it through your nose if that's more comfortable. And now again, receiving that breath in, filling the chest, filling the belly, pausing at the top of the breath, and then release it all. Releasing it slowly and intentionally, calming your nervous system. One more time. Breathing in, pausing at the top, and releasing. Thank you for pausing for yourself today. Your mental health is important, and you deserve peace, calm, and ease in your life every day. So please, choose to receive it. It is always available right at your center, your heart, your core. Stay well, friends. Thanks for listening to the Warrior Parent Podcast, which is a production of our nonprofit, Cour Experience, who also creates and distributes Cour tools. You can find us at courexperience.org. Make sure you join us next week for another informative conversation to help you and your family show up mindfully, purposefully, and joyfully with each other and in your community.
Our Cour Tools platform consists of a number of proven tools and techniques that are designed to reduce stress, anxiety, and overwhelm in spite of what's going on in your world. We want to thank Samuel Hale, LLC, for sponsoring this podcast. Technical and marketing support comes from Inspire Your Brand. Our podcast editor is Justin Veeden. Opinions expressed by guests do not necessarily reflect those of the hosts, the producers, or the financial supporters. I'm Debbie DiManno.
And I'm Marci Mitchell. Thanks for listening. If you resonate with the idea of creating a community to help support kids and families, won't you join us by following the podcast and sharing this episode? You can even write a review. It truly does take a village, and we appreciate you.